going on, collectors? Optical 20 back for another video review. Today we're going to take a look at Moff Gideon from Mandalorian, and you can order this figure at bigbadtoystore.com. I'll put the link down below. $4 shipping, pile of loot, and what more can you ask for? You see here, let's unbox this figure. It's nice. I've always wanted him, but there was a sale that came about, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more. There's a lot of stuffs right there right now, and it's up to you it's up to you whatever you want to pick up. And for the most part, if you just wait for the right timing, you'll get them for a good price, which is what happened to me when it comes to this figure. I got it for a price that I was willing to pay for, and I jumped on it. And I'll give you my thoughts on the actual figure as we go along. But first, this is the I guess the part where people likes it, where the Darksaber, they want to put it with their Mandos and all that stuff. And this Moff Gideon, initially, I'm not gonna lie, I was not too thrilled about the head sculpt. It wasn't bad, but I wasn't convinced either. And having it in hand, I can tell you, it is a lot better than those blogger pictures. I know it's easy to say, but I can attest this to myself. It looks a lot better. I can say that. You see the stand right there. It doesn't peg right away. I don't know why, but yeah, its accessories is not that much when it comes to this figure, and we'll tackle that here. So you get two pairs of hands, fisted hands, besides the open palm hands, and you got this sword holding hands basically, and the trigger finger hand. So the sword holding hand, it's either hand, but the trigger finger hand is on the right hand side. And you got this pistol right here that looks kind of like a Luger. It does nice. It does looks nice. I didn't even try if there's a magazine underneath. I mean, this is Star Wars. It's kind of ridiculous that you do have that scope for that little gun that you do have. But the most anticipated, I would say, accessory for this guy is the lightsaber. It's pretty light too for not a lightsaber, a dark saber. But it's painted nicely. It doesn't have any light up function, and if there's anything good came out of that Anakin Skywalker from Third Party, is it gives and Third Party shouldn't be doing this to Hot Toys, but it gives them an idea on how to light up a saber without switching out the arm. That should be a thing of 2015 and shouldn't be used anymore moving forward. However, in this instance, it does not light up, which is fine. But moving forward, that should be the way to go. Now, armor, if you want to call it at that, this guy has a nice suit. He just have like a chest armor here with, two on the sides on his shoulders, which is, I believe, I haven't fully inspected this guy, is that it's Velcroed, but it's kind of, it has some metal on it because the cape, as you can see here, has a magnet on the side that kind of sticks to those shoulder pads. Now, overall, the look that he does have is pretty simple. He does have this pleather boots and kind of like a tracksuit sort of a pants there, and then the chest piece. Pretty ordinary. Nothing that would stand out, but the actor itself and the character. I mean, I love Giancarlo, and one of the reasons I picked this figure up, he just does, any role that he gets into, he does have an imposing figure. Like he just have this presence in him, and it adds, it kind of transfer onto this figure once you do have it, and especially if you have multiple Mandalorian figures in your collection, they just complement each other nicely. That's one thing I would say about a Star Wars figure though. And you see this cape, it's nicely done. It does have those wires on the side that you could pose around, and you see the boots. Yeah, it might flake in the future. And the head sculpt. Now let's jump into this, the most, I would say, controversial one, but as you can see here, it's not that bad. It's not. If there's anything that I would say, the eyes has way too much gloss in it, that to a point where when the light touches it, like you see here, the light bounces off. It does not absorb light nicely, therefore giving you this glassy-eyed look, which I believe takes away from the sculpt. But with that being said, it's still a good looking sculpt. I wouldn't say great. I'm not a big fan of how they pull back the hair. Maybe if they age him a little bit more, but honestly, I'm totally fine with it. I have no complaints. It's not perfect, but it's there. It is there. I mean, you won't mistake it for anybody else unless you don't watch Mandalorian. But it's a nice, beautiful head sculpt. The skin texture is there. As always, for older figures, you see the wrinkles and all that stuff. It adds dimension to the figure itself. The hair is slicked back, and you can even kind of smell the product, the gel that he uses here. It is nice. Everything is nicely done. You see those wrinkles in his face, the texture, the different paint speckles and all that stuff. I think, and again, the light bounces off nicely. You see on the side of his face there, it kind of like absorbs the bright highlights in there. But yeah, it is overall a beautiful head sculpt in my opinion. Not as bad as I thought initially it would be. Articulation wise, it's a pretty standard figure, so you can raise the hands on the side pretty high. It is a one-piece neck, so you can see there. Then you can move the arms forward, and bend the elbows pretty tight. That gauntlet that he does have, you constantly have to move it up and down all the time. But his movement isn't being hindered by his clothing outside of the waist because of that big belt, as you can see. Now you can raise the legs as well. Bend the knees pretty tightly there. There's ankle articulation. Now, for the ones who wanted to pose and have him battle with Mandalorian, you won't have any issues because, like I mentioned earlier, as far as articulation and posing, I don't think there's a whole lot of restriction outside of the waist again, but it shouldn't really matter for the type of poses that you're gonna put him in. It's not like you're gonna put him in a Spider-Man, ground pound pose or anything like that. But yeah, you move the arms forward. You can raise it up even high as it is. If he's wielding his Darksaber over his head, you could do that as well. Now, before we wrap this thing up, let's do some poses. Here he is holding his blaster inside his ship, and it's pretty nice. He does have that presence. Here's the caveat though. Initially, when I got him, I wasn't too excited. Up until I'm posing him up. As a standalone figure, I don't think you're gonna enjoy him as much. However, if you have a few figures that would complement him, and by that I mean a Death Trooper in this instance, I just simulated other Death Troopers on the back, maybe a Stormtrooper or Mandalorian. You post them together, you kind of create a story on your head or on your shelf. I think that's where he shines. Because individually, if you only have him, let's say you're just a fan of Moff Gideon and Giancarlo, I don't know, man. It's kind of boring, honestly. I kind of felt the same way with Vision. They're awesome figures. They're cool as a figure in themselves. But individually, I don't know if they can give you the feels, of being inspired and all that. But, being in the right situation with the other figures, he would stand out. Like this battle that I have him, have him battling with Mandalorian. Not accurate, of course. He just got out of ship. But you know what I'm talking about here, where he's about to hack him. He held his hand, gonna chop it off. But Mando's gonna block it with his Beskar armor right there. So I'm gonna have fun with this figure. And it also does help that I got him for pretty cheap. And look at that. He's wielding his Darksaber over his head without any restriction whatsoever, and the facial expression is good enough that's Giancarlo though. He just stays stoic. He doesn't have that emotion, and he's still grinding there. He's about to annihilate Mandalorian. Final thoughts on this figure. Like I mentioned earlier, the head sculpt is not as bad. That is the most controversial thing here. He's a bit Well, Giancarlo is not the tallest guy, but he does have that presence. Look at that. He's just holding his hand behind his back. You can put him in different poses, in different situations, and I think you'll be satisfied. Especially, well, prerequisite, you got to be a fan of Mandalorian. But with that being said, not an outstanding figure by any stretch. Not something that you would be like, whoa, what is this? You know, like this is just an amazing figure. It's not. It's one of the figures you'll have, but you also need something to complement him with. And if you have that, a stormtrooper, like troopers are really cheap nowadays. Not death troopers, but a regular trooper would do. Which I do have some. You put two on the side, he still looks pretty awesome. If you put a few death troopers on his side, that's even better. So, in my opinion, you put him in the right situation in the shelf, he would have that presence. But putting him by himself out there, with nothing, I don't think it's doing justice to your display or the figure itself. But yeah, let me know in the comments, do you have this figure? Are you planning to get him? Are you waiting for a good deal? Because there was one. What is enough for this figure? Let me know your comments down below. Thank you for watching. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.